Everyone, let's see if I'm live. Just verify. So, last time I did a stream without any voice, so I'm being more careful now. Great. So, let's go ahead and get started. So, last time we learned about forms, we also did some of routing. We implemented our can match guard. We can also probably use can activate, uh, and we can yeah, I mean there are a bunch of cards we can use. There is also a resolve card as well, which can prefetch the data. We will use a few of them as well, I mean, as we move ahead. What should we do now? So today we are going to try the profile section. So that's what we mentioned. The reason we are going to do profile is we will learn how we can make like nested forms, because if you see the data. So let's go ahead and see the profile data which you have. So get a single user, and it contains, let's say, this user information. Then there is a name, first name, last name, which is again a nested uh, JSON, right? And then we have address, and you can see within address also we have geolocation, which is again the nested form or nested value. So this will be a pretty good use case to try out a new API or another form API to do this. And before I move ahead, again, a shout out to Matthew, who has been helping with some of the CSS issues. So he opened another issue where there was product category name which was missing, and I somehow forgot to check that. So thanks again, Matthew. I mean, you have been helping a lot. And here, let's go ahead and see what I'm talking about. So, name, password. And once you move here, right, so all products, click on category, electronics, jewelry. So this was missing, and now it's back. So let's go ahead and start working on our form. So we also did one thing last time. So we added this one. So where we said we will remove this, and we'll probably put log out option, and then there is be a profile option. So let's do that. So let's first name this too, and to do that, we'll go back to our menu, like main navigation component. So this is where we added this. So you can see mat icon, dial pad, voicemail, notification off. So we will say this is mat menu item. This is disabled. I'll remove this because we don't need. And mat icon, let's search for the icon which we need. We need profile, and we need logout. Yeah. So for mat icons, we can go to CDK, GHI, where is that? Okay, somehow I'm on CDK. Icon, and here, right? So you can see this icons and uh, material icons font. This is where we can actually search for all the icons which we have, right? So let's see, where is the list? Where is the list? Hmm. The list of icons that can be programmatically mirrored to RTL. Okay, no problem. I mean, this is what we need, the entire list. This is self-hosting, get repository, material icon library. Great. So this is where we have all the icons which we need. Let's search for profile, what we get. Profile, I think this one makes the account circle. I think this is something which can be on top. So we can replace this one, this three dot circle, right? So we can actually remove and put this one. Let's see what we have here. icon button with a menu, and there should be an icon. So mat icon button, click here. So it says it's a mat icon button, but that's different. I'm more vertical. This should be the one. Yep, this is the one. So mat icon button, and then mat icon more but. So we can use what is the name? What is the name here? Code. I don't need the code, but this account circle. This is the name which we need. Change this to why. Let's type. I mean, I should be able to type faster than just trying to copy this account circle. Let's see. This should be replaced with the account circle now. And what else? Why it's not reflecting? Great. So this is what we needed. So we have this account circle, and within this we need an account. So let's pick up something for profile. Hmm. This is okay. And remove person. I don't know. I don't want that. Person 2, face 5. I think this is okay. Face 5. So I'll change mat icon face underscore 5 and call this as profile, and remove one because I just need another which says login and sorry, log out. So log out, there should be icon for sure. And this is the perfect one. So I can say this is icon log out, and this becomes okay. Let's verify if this looks good. Here, profile logout. Perfect. This is what we needed. So we have two menus here, and now we can see, I mean, yeah, whether we want to click on profile or visit logout, and you don't have to take care of the CSS. You can see, you can just click out, it goes away. You can click here, it goes away. We have to write the action. So right now it's not doing anything because we haven't programmed this icons to do anything. These are actually buttons. So of course I can have a click action or a router outlet or a router link, sorry, and then redirect it somewhere. For example, for logout, of course, we need to call an action. We want to actually clear our session and then say, hey, let's go back to the login page. But for profile, we can just have a link which says, hey, move to profile. That's it. So what we will do is we will create a component, and we will also configure a route. So as this profile information related to user, we will go again back to the user. This is where we are going to keep our code related to everything related to user. So we already created a profile component before we finished our stream yesterday, and this does nothing. So you can see it's just an empty component. So let's do first step first. Let's configure the route, right? So we can go back to our app routes, and here I can add one. Say path, and it says profile, load component, profile component, and we should have can match auth guard, and this is enough. And what we also needs to do is we click on this and then we go to profile. So main nav profile, here I can put outer link, and we can say profile. Click here, click on profile. Because we have auth guard, so it will not work. And then let's log in. Username and password. And if you log in, it should go to product. And now let's click on our profile section, and it says profile works. Yes, exactly. So we just configured our route. Now let's go back and work on our form. Sorry. So let's go back to the profile section, and we will be using reactive forms again, right? So we did a small reactive form using for our login scenario. Now we will just do the complex one by getting all this information. So first thing first, what we need an API to retrieve the data. So we already have a user service. Let's see, user component. We did have a service, or is it? No, we did not. We don't have a service. Login service. Where is this service now? Okay, so we have a login service. Let's create another service called user service, which probably makes other API calls not related to login and logout. So let's generate service, Angular service, and the name. This is component. So I'll just close this and it's generate service and Angular service. Yep, and then we'll call this as user service. Let's see what my command prompt says, if this command works or not. And it should, yeah, click on generate. And let's move this to store. And we'll make an API call to retrieve our profile information. So we need get user, and here I'll just use the HTTP client, the HTTP client. And on get user, we just say, okay, HTTP get user. I'll just take user 2 because I think that had like only one card data which we needed. So let's see, get all show output, or we can just actually call it from UI. Oh, sorry, URL. Right. So this is a get call. So anyways, it should work. So user ID 1 had 2 records. User ID 2 had only 1 record. And user ID 3. So user ID 2, I'll go with user ID 2. So, um, and what else we need is we need the type information, right? So this is the type. So I can actually say, hey, let's create an interface based on this. This is user dot interface dot ps, and here we can say export interface user, and let's see, ID, number, username, email, password, token. Do they have a token? No. Get a single user. So this is not an array. We can also do one thing. I mean, this is just a shortcut which I'm showing you. There is something called JSON to TypeScript, and you can also use this if you want to. I mean, you can just provide your JSON and it creates an interface for you. So expected unable to pass JSON where line 1 of 8. John Doe. What's wrong here? So ID, name, address. Okay, let's do this one and see what it does. Why? Mm-hmm. What's the difference? So it has almost same information, but expected unable to pass sample. Ah, so this website looks broken. Okay, I mean, we can check what other option we have. This into TypeScript. I hope this works. Let's copy. This seems to working. And we can copy this information. This comes very handy in case you are working on front end and back end, and then you want to actually create the TypeScript. Generate TypeScript now, and we can paste it here. Key must be for. Okay, so it needs. Okay, so it wants me to put keys and multiple JSON schema. Okay, we'll do that. Let's try it first, and then we can see. Key must be quoted. Okay, I did that. Interesting. Okay, it works. So if I add all the keys, great. So the way to copy this as a JSON is to make this an API, to make this API call. No, I was expecting this to give me quoted string, but there are ways to do this. Hmm. So one, and we can go to response. This is JSON actually. Copy. Yeah, yeah, Dick. How are you? After a long, long time. Yes, basically. Okay, so this is how it looks like. So you can see it created all this information from, sorry, it created this interface from this information. We can actually copy this and put it into our user metadata. And so this is how it looks like. So we also have this underscore v, which we don't need. We have, rather than welcome, we'll say user. And what else? Good. So how is your family? How is everyone? And where are you working now? So yeah, I mean, in case you're wondering how I know Hardik, so we used to work together. Hardik worked in my team for a few years, and yeah, that was good time in Mumbai, working for a startup, screwing up our lives, like working late nights and doing crazy stuff. I'm past that now, so I don't do that anymore. You watch my videos. Thank you so much. I mean, don't take me wrong. I mean, there's nothing wrong with working all those crazy hours. Just work for yourself. Don't work for your company. Your company is not paying you for working more than 8 hours. I think that's a debatable topic. A lot of people do. I mean, will tell you in future that you need to work hard, but yeah, how to differentiate what working hard means? Going good. So you moved to Ahmedabad from Mumbai, and so yep, we have our user service and we got our user metadata. Let's call this. So where is my profile here and profile component constructor, and what we need is we need the user service, and then we'll replace all this using Interact store. And actually move this on top. And I think this is the good time. I should introduce you to signals, and we can also see something known as a sync pipe. So I'll show you both. I'll show you both. Signals is of course a very uh, what you can say the hot topic right now, right? For in Angular. So let's see how we can actually bind this data using RxJS, or yeah, and then we can do signals as well. Let's see. Here we have profile information. I mean, in case I want to bind a stream, I can just do something like this. I can use something called a sync pipe, which takes the observable, unwraps it, subscribe for you. If you remember, if you in my previous stream, I was trying some of the API and then I missed subscribe. I think yeah, that was login, right? So I was trying to call login method and then it was not working because I missed the subscribe. So what I did is I called actually dot subscribe to initiate the manual subscription, which is okay sometime, but in case you're doing manual subscription, you should unsubscribe as well because otherwise there will be memory leak. Async pipe takes care of it for us, so it will unsubscribe when needed and unsubscribe as soon as you destroy your component or as soon as the DOM component is removed from the UI. So that's automatic. I mean, that's what async pipe does for us behind the scenes. And to do that, okay, I'll just disable this auth type. Sorry, yeah, auth guard for profile. So I'll just remove this because I don't want to just log in again and again using same credentials. You know, that's irritating. So profile, and you can see I have this information. So contains address, city, the same information which we had here from our API. But there's a new thing called signals. So signals can do this for you as well, and it has some advantages. So we'll talk about it. Let's do that. I hope I picked the right scenario. You can use an extension to connect. Yeah, I mean, they had an option that I want if I want to add an extension, but it's okay. I already have enough extension to slow down my machine. No more, no more extensions. Great. So you can define signals just like this. So you can say user equals to new. I don't think so. We need to do signal, and you can like have an empty array, empty object. So this is a signal which we have defined, and we can also do like there are few helper methods. So observable, or did they change the API? So let's go ahead and verify the API. So there is a signal uh, documentation. Hmm. Okay, what Angular signals? Yeah, here. So you can see this is how you define a signal. Signals. Let's talk a little bit about signals. I mean, this is interesting, and we wanted first like let's see this the helper methods. Control F. Observable. To signal. Okay, why to signal? Yeah. So this is the operator I'm looking for. So this is something which converts your stream to signal. So you can see there should be some example to signal, and okay, there is not an example here, but we can actually use this to convert your observable to signal. That's yeah, I hope that's the correct one. To signal returns a signal which provides synchronous reactive process. Yeah. So this is the API which I want to signal, and let's take it from what is the Angular core RxJS interop RxJS Angular core. How many of you have actually heard about signals? Angular core and RxJS interop. So this is from where we need these APIs, and we need to signal. Let's see to signal. And we'll comment this out. And while I mean, as we change this to signal, you can actually remove this, drop this dollar sign. But let me just tell you why we used to actually have this dollar signs. So in case of RxJS, whatever data you get actually streams. It's not like the normal objects, right? I mean, not the uh, it's not string or number or any object. It's actually stream. It's a stream of values. So to denote that this variable holds a value of stream, we used to actually use dollars. But in signals, I think in other programming languages, signals do not programming languages, but other frameworks. For example, we have Solid, we have Quick. They also use signals, but they don't actually name or use any special sign to denote that it's a signal, because signals are synchronous. Like it's not asynchronous. Like what in some cases, like RxJS can be asynchronous in case you are doing some operation, which can give you value after some time. We don't do that in Signal. So we are Angular community actually still discussing if we should use any sign here. But until I mean, there is nothing which is concrete. So I think it's better to not use anything, because we are just saying like this is the value, right? We can use directly. So let's see how to use this signal, and then we'll also talk about like advantages, drawbacks, of why signals came in. Little bit of theory. So yeah, I mean, in case you want to hear about the backstory, you can. Otherwise, just go ahead and read the RFC. But yeah, hang on. I mean, uh, probably you learn something, and we can say user and type this in. So let's see. Of course, the syntax is changed, but what else? Go back. Let's see, and we still have our data. Yay! So just to verify if we are still we are using signals. I mean, is there any way? No, we don't, because we just compiled our code, so we should expect that okay, this worked. Coming back to question, how many of you actually know about signals in Angular right now? It actually just very new. I mean, it's right now in developer preview. Yeah, it's developer preview. So I think it should be available here on the previous page. Signals, where is that? Feature preview. So it's not developer preview. Yeah, it's a feature preview. So you have signals. Anyone who has heard about it and you tried signals? Okay. If so, Abhishek says just heard it for the first time. Cool. That's great. So anyone else? No. Yeah. So signals are actually new thing which is being introduced into Angular. So if you know, I mean, before signals, how you used to work with data, it was mostly RxJS, right? It was stream of data. So here, let's talk about Michael. Hey, Michael. I know. I mean, you must be. So I know Michael from Twitter. No, sorry, LinkedIn. We are connected on LinkedIn. So you are already on 16, or Michael, or you are just like experimenting it on your side project. So let's talk a little bit about the way change detection used to work, and then how Signal is going to improve that. And for that, we will go to what was that? Uh, there's an app, Canvas. Anyone knows the name of the app where you can draw online? Hadik, yeah, no problem. So Hadik has never heard about it, and yeah, so this is Michael, and he has already been using it. I'm jealous of you right now, Michael, because this is the first time I'm trying it. Believe me. So, of course, I went through the RFC, and now I'm using this for the first time. So let's see. We No, I mean, it's like the app is. I know the name, but you sometimes you cannot figure it out. So it was Excalidraw. Yeah. So I just wanted Excalidraw. Uh, so I can show you like how the change section used to work, and then what is getting changed. So I'll just remove this diagram and let's draw a new one. So let's talk about normally how your component tree looks like. So let's say you have components in Angular. So mm, and I'll draw more. So let's say this is your home. This is your profile. So I'm right now we have single standalone component, right? So it's not a modules, the concept of modules anymore. So profile, I mean, even that here's the diagram remains same. Some so login, what we have product. Let's say I'll just change this product profile cart, and we have login. Let's draw the lines or relationship. So what I mean by this diagram is this is direct child, and then these are like child of something else. For example, this profile is child of login, and let's say uh, product list is child of the product. Great, a very nice diagram. So let's discuss about it now. So in on front end, right? So you pick up any framework. What happens? So if you think about it, you perform some action. Let's say you clicked on this login, on the URLs, and you get some data. And in some cases, you enter some information. For example, here you enter some information, and the information is being reflected here. Like, so we re-render, right? We re-render a lot of things when you work with the UI, even like fetching the data from backend. So you make API calls, and then finally, what happens? Somehow that data is actually rendered on the screen. That's why we are calling it, and that's why we have our jobs. So we have to show all this information on front end. So what this framework does, all this framework, React, Angular, Vue, so they have some mechanism to make sure whenever you update something, you get the latest information available, and that is change direction, right? And they follow different techniques, would say, to do that. For example, Angular has its own rendering engine. React does in a different way using virtual DOM. I think hope they still use it. I mean, Solid. I think Solid is something which uses Signal. React uses Ref, which is, I think, if I'm not wrong, just correct me, but it uses something. It uses probably proxy, which is very similar. It has similar APIs as of Signals. So, of course, things need to be re-rendered. And this is where Angular used to do it in a different way, using its own rendering engine. So the way change detection used to work in Angular is, let's say if you made some changes here, Angular will actually go ahead, and if you are not using change detection strategy on push, by default, I think, so by default, Angular will just check what has changed. So it will run the change detection on everything, and then it will re-render it. And it goes from your top, sorry, it goes from your bottom to top, and then re-render everything which is possible. If you are using on push, you save some efforts, right? So you just update the component which where you made some changes. For example, if I made some changes to cart, of course the cart will be updated, but I think it will just go ahead and check for its parent component as well, and it will not touch anything which is not related. So this is something which makes a huge performance hit in case you have a lot of related component, a lot of child and parent component, and this is where your application starts becoming slow, right? So in case you have your enterprise application, which is like maybe 1,000 2,000 components, probably you may struggle with like you may get performance issues due to change detection. But for medium and small apps, Angular works perfectly fine. You will probably never see this change detection issue or the performance issue. So, and as we know, Angular is mostly used in enterprises, right? So big enterprises, and they build big apps. So it means they are not going to have just 100 200 components. They are going to have thousands of components. And it was challenging, right? I mean, it was challenging to teach all the developers that you should use on change detection strategy on push, and then how to use it. That's difficult. So how we can make developers life easy is by making the concept easier. Making the concept easier. And that's where Angular team decided that okay, RxJS is a good choice, but we want to make the learning curve for every developer easy. So that's why they introduced the concept of signals. Now in signals actually brings, sorry. Now signals make your reactivity very local. So you can say here, if I just update user, it means it will just affect this component. You can actually go at minimal level. I mean, I can just do, like, have a div where I use a signal to update that div, and then it will just update that div. But again, that will be that may be may become a problem because we are going at a very minute level. It's always better, I mean, as per Angular team also, it's always better to go at the component level. So in case you're defining any signal, just use the entire signal for your component, and don't just try to go very smaller, because behind the scenes Angular is going to create what you can say, a graph, a dependency graph between the signals and what you are rendering. And if you have a lot of signals, it means Angular needs to create those graph and maintain it, which may become problem. So just go at the component level. That's what the recommended strategy is. Maybe in case in future it can change, right? Because all these best practices changes over the time. So right now that's the strategy we should take, that in case we are defining signal, we should use it for component level, but in future it may change. So just keep yourself updated by referring to the docs, by listening to the experts who are actually writing about signals and sharing their thoughts. I'm not an expert in signals. I mean, I'm just a user who knows how to use this stuff. But there are experts like Ran Carneto, who has like a very big impact on introducing signals to the Angular. Uh, just go ahead and learn, right, read his blog post about signals. Just go ahead and see how Solid is doing it, and you will learn something from there, because they have signals from a long time. So they have signals which is battle tested, used by developers. So I mean, they know like how, where the signals can go wrong, where the signals like are a good choice. So to yeah, so now at by using signals, what we can do is we can have change detection at every component level. I don't have to go up and just check whether I want to update this or I don't want to update this. I don't have to do this. Now Angular will take care, and each component can have its own reactivity, and they can like run their own change detection without even thinking about anything else. But right now, I mean, uh, in the future, of course, what this signals unlocks, of course, in future you can actually have an app without using zone.js. So now you might be wondering where actually zone.js came into picture. So let me draw update this diagram. So actually everything you run today in Angular runs inside something known as zone, and that's the zone is actually responsible for running all this change detection. But as soon as the signals becomes default, you don't need this zone. It means all the performance issues which we are getting was actually due to zone.js, which we include in our file. I mean, you already have, in case you have an Angular app, you can just go to package.json, you have zone.js. So that was doing all those stuff. It was actually capturing all the events, checking if any what needs to be done, run your change detection. Let's see, in case I'm using on push, so it will do a little bit of optimization for you, but with signals, you don't have to worry about it. So in Angular 17, we may get something known as signals. So we can mark a component as a component which will only use signals, and this component will work like what we said. So it will just have its own change direction. It will not go to anyone else. And this signals component and the zone based component, they can work side by side. So it's not like you have to rewrite your code again, which is a very big I mean, people talk a lot, right? I mean, and some people might say, "Hey, signals are coming, so RxJS is going to be deprecated." No, it's not. RxJS and RxJS is still going to be there. It's to improve your developer experience, to make you learn few less concepts. That's why signals are being introduced. So uh, if you see here what I did, so to use the signal, I mean, there is a different way. So generally, with RxJS, we used to use pipe, and then we used to use a sync. Or you subscribe to a pipe, or sorry, you subscribe to a signal, you subscribe to an observable, and then you get a user value, right? Like, you don't have to do anything, but you can just print like this user, right? And that's how uh, you might be doing it by manually subscribing it. But with pipes, until unless you don't call this, and you might be wondering, hey, this looks like a function call. Is that performant enough? Yes, it is. You don't have to worry about any performance hits or performance issues here. And you can actually do cool stuff with this. So once you call this function, you can actually define, for example, let's see what the type of this signal is. This is user. So I think I should be able to do dot email. This object is possibly undefined, and let's run this, and let's go back to profile, and you can see you have your email. So to unwrap signals, you have to call this function. So of course this will happen that you may miss this, and you will not get any issue, any value. So let's see. So as soon as I do this and just print, and I have no value. So just be aware that until unless you don't call this function, your signals will not be unwrapped for you, and you will not get any value. So signals come with some helper function. One of them is to signal. Let's say you already have an observable and you want to convert them to signal, you can use to signal. You can also convert a signal back to an observable by using to observable. So there is another API to observable, and you can use this to convert a signal into observable. That's also possible. And what else? You have some other APIs. For example, there is something called computed. Let's try this out. I think I can think of a scenario where we can actually display first name and last name. So we can actually append both of them by using a computed, uh, yeah, computed signals here. So if you see this, this is a computed method, which is also available as part of core. So let's take the computed value, computed function. And here I can say, let's do this full name. So I can say full name is equals to computed, and based on this value, so I want to actually create user dot, it is actually, that's okay. So signals count into two, right? So similarly, what we can do is we need the properties. What are the properties? Name dot first name, user dot name dot first name, plus this user dot name dot last name. So why is this possibly undefined? Interesting. And let's print this full name. Again, this is a signal. So of course, until unless you call this as a function, it will do nothing. So let's see. Hope this works. Yep, it works. So you can see David Morrison. This is actually the full name. Hey Pradum, uh, thank you for joining. I mean, it's very late in India, so you're still here. Hope you sleep. So David Morrison. So we got like a computed signal as well. So if you think about it, you don't need pipes. In case you have already been Angular developer and you have written pipes with computed property, do you think you need pipes? I think it's the same thing which we are doing here. I mean, if I have to actually do it in another way, yeah, it's 215. Yeah, I mean, I can understand. So if you have to do it in another way without using signals, the only solution which I can think of is pipe. So creating an Angular pipe. So introducing signals not only actually reduces the concepts, the less number of concepts to learn, but it actually simplifies some APIs as well. So you don't need to reach out to them. You don't have to learn about those concepts. So this is what signals are going to do for us. Very cool concept. And of course, in future we can kick out zone.js. We can have an application which is fully zoneless application. As I said, you don't have to worry about it in most of the cases. But if you are getting some performance issues due to change detection, going to change detection strategy on push is a good choice. But as we know that it requires some learning curve. With signals, you don't need to, and you can actually migrate gradually because there are some APIs, for example, to signal. So in case you already have an observable, you can convert them to signal and then use it. So that's it. So um, probably once I explore more about signals and I learn a few more tricks, I'll do some in future some streams to see to show how we can actually use it, and probably we can continue with the same application which we have. And this brings me to the point that we wanted to actually create a form, and let's do that. We still have a few minutes left, so we can probably create our form and show this data. So to create this form, which is like this data, we already have the interface created. And to create this information or to create this form, we will reach out to the reactive forms APIs. And the first thing which we need is, of course, we need a form, right? So I'll say this is profile form, which is type of form group. I'll say, okay, there is a profile form, and I'll just put exclamation just to avoid this error. Otherwise, it will say, okay, this is not defined because we are using strict mode. And in form group, you can see you can actually add controls, but this is, let's go back to login component. This is where you can see it. So you can see in form group, I can just go ahead and add controls, but this is not this simple, right? I mean, I have to actually add again, like again a form. So think about this. So because this is first name, last name, which is again a nested property, address, and it again contains geolocation. Geolocation contains lat long, and this is nested. So we cannot just actually use form group. So we have to reach out to something which is more flexible, right? We can create dynamically. So we will use a form API called Form Builder. The name says everything, right? I mean, it says that it's a form builder. It's just like, I hope everyone knows Bob the Builder. That I mean, I was a big fan. I used to watch it a lot. So FB Form Builder. So Bob the Builder used to build buildings, and he used to. Now we will just build a form using FB or the form builder. Let's see. So we have the way we are going to do it is first we will create a group where we will have some information. So you can see it says this dot user dot name last name. I mean, all this came because of thanks again to GitHub Copilot writing code for us since 2021, right? That's or 2022 whenever this came in. So here you can see the first name, last name, email, and phone address. Of course, this is not the same properties as this one. This looks different. And let's do one thing. So to I hope you know this trick because it's very handy. So in case you want to actually see all this information as a JSON, use pre tag. It actually it actually shows it like this. So you can actually copy paste properties if you need. I mean, if you have just a string, it's hard to figure out what's where. So you can actually just use pre tag in case you are debugging something and you want to see JSON. Just use pre tag here. So we have ID, email, username, and password. We don't need username and password. We need ID email. So let's create ID and email. I'll just drop this one ID, and I'll say this is new form control, and this is the default value. So we can probably add some validation after this, and if we need email, we have, do we have anything else? Phone, we have phone, yes, and then we have address, and uh, this is where we can actually create our nested form. So this form builder API actually allows us to do this nesting. So now we can say, hey, this address is actually another form, and we will say, okay, this is fb.group, because this has three APIs. We'll talk about yeah, three of them. Right now, let's just try the group APIs. And here now I can say, hey, this is another group, and I can say it contains city, street, number, and zip code. So city, street, number, and zip code. Done. So this is what it contains. And let's do one thing. So we still have few minutes left. Probably we can see how this form looks like. And if you remember yesterday, we talked about login form, and we saw that, okay, the forms has some characteristics, it has some values. And let's see how my form looks like. So profile form, and we can say dot value by JSON. And let's see. And here it is. So you can see my form has ID, email, phone, address, and then address has city, street, number, and zip code. So all this information is available. And I'm just wondering why this is null ID. This is interesting. This is null. Probably I'm doing something wrong with the signal. As I said, I'm trying it for the first time. So, and for validation, you can just copy. So, yep, you can actually just pass validations here. We can say validators. It's the same. I mean, validators not required. And we can actually bring this to the nested value here as well. So, validators not required. And it will have all this validation. So, you can actually, the only difference would be how we do it at the control level. If you remember, we used has error API, right? Like last time. So we used this one, has error max length, and then the control name. This is the only thing which will change. Adding validation will remain the same. So you have form control. You can say this comma whatever validation you want to add. And here is she, city, street number, and what else we have? I think we had, yeah, geolocation, right? So this is also part of this. So I can say geolocation. Mhm. And this is again a group. So I'll say lat long, and that's it. And I'll just remove this as of now. So it is returning me blank value. Anyways, I have to check why. I mean, and this. And now I should have here address and then geolocation, and it has lat long. So you can see, I mean, you can actually go at any level. So you can create nested form easily using form builder. You can add actually an array of form as well if you need. And that's pretty much interesting stuff about, that's what I love about this form builder APIs. So I can actually create form like as I mean, whatever I like the way I like. Let it be a very complex form, I can just write it down here, and then it's done. The only problem, not problem, but yeah, the only thing is we have to render it, and then we'll see how to render in case you have a complex nested form, probably tomorrow. So we will end the stream here, but you saw that what we can do using signals. We'll talk a little bit about signals, a little bit of theory. We saw two properties, not two properties, two APIs actually. One is to signal, which converts an observable to signal. Then we saw how we can read signals. We have to always call this function, otherwise we won't be able to read the signals. And we saw computed property, right, which which avoids the need to have even pipe. Most of the cases you can just work with computed property. And computed property is not called again and again, so it's like, okay, whenever you update the first name and last name at in I think, yeah, this is also a very cool thing, that if in case I update in first name or last name, the signals will be called, otherwise it won't be called. So if I update any other property, the full name will never be re-rendered again. So some cool stuff which is happening with the signals. So go ahead and give it a try. As I said, read the blog from Ran Carniato. He has written some amazing stuff. See his talks. I think he has given some talks as well. Why signal is out of ng on init? I think so Ali, yeah, Michael, I'll come back to your question. So Michael has a question that, okay, why we need form builder? Why you can just do with ng new form group? And Ali, so why is signal out of ng on init? So here, I mean, this is what I did before, and we have been doing this with observable as well. So if you remember, we can actually just say user type is equals to user. So this is the same code, just wrapped with two signal. So you can always write a code outside of your ng on init. It's not mandatory. So, and same with computed, right? So because that's a function call, so I can always do outside of ng on init. You don't have to write your code inside ng on init. Coming back to your question, Michael, why we cannot do using form group? Because it makes it uh, let's go back here, right? So you can see in form group, if you see this API, what we can have inside form group, you can have form controls. So you can add controls, not another form. Form builder, it's actually very flexible. It can actually have a control, it can have a form group, it can have a form array, whatever you want to. So it's like the high level API which can provide you everything, just not the form group. So you can add anything which you want. There is another API which came recently. I was actually talking about. Yeah, Ali, that's what I was saying just a few seconds back. I have to check that. Why? I mean, this is a signal, and I'm just trying the signal for the first time. Probably I'm doing something wrong. I have to see what I'm doing here, and that's the reason. So nothing. I mean, nothing which should not work and should work. I mean, I have to just ask someone why it's not, or read some documentation, because this is the first time on stream I'm trying signal. And yeah, so Michael, I hope it answers your question. So because we needed like nested forms, and that's where form builder API becomes very handy. You can also do the same using template driven forms. It's not like this not cannot be done. I just like the simplicity. Signal should have a default value, but the observable probably doesn't. I mean, if you think about it, if you have a behavior subject, you can have a default value signal, Michael, right? So it depends. Yeah, if it's a subject, I mean, it cannot have a default value, but it's a behavior subject, it can always have a default value. So yeah, cool. So thanks again for joining. And wasn't sure if it's a behavior. I mean, if we're talking about observable, right? Observable can be anything. It's a subject, behavior subject, can be replace subject. It's type of subject basically. I'm not talking about like specific to this use case, but I was just talking about in general. So, and this is not observable. So this is a signal. I mean, I'm just trying to read the value. So thanks again, everyone, for joining. Thanks again, Michael. Happy to see you here on the stream, and we will continue again tomorrow. Probably, meanwhile I'll be able to figure out why this user is null and why it is not giving any value, and then we'll continue with like this, how to bind this form, and then how to submit this form. In case I want to edit, I can click on edit and submit edit values and submit this form. So we'll do that. We'll continue doing that in future streams. And in case you have any ideas, just let me know. We can probably some discuss some topics, some APIs if you want to cover, if you want me to cover. And See you again tomorrow. Bye bye and good night.